starting out on our first one.
And I will be very quiet until.
No, it's fine. I got volume on you now. I can turn you down whenever I want.
Oh, good. Then do that, because I'm probably going to talk to myself anyway.
6:30, God, I hate that sound. Ain't got time to snooze, I put my feet on the ground and I head to the shower, then avoid the mirror. There's a man who lives inside there who just points out all my fears. Like, is this who you wanna be? I wanna be. There's gotta be a better me than the one in front of me. I got big ideas, I got big dreams. I got a big head, thick skin, and passion bursting at the seams. Been working 9 to 5 just to make ends meet. Then I'm rapping 6 to 2 just so that I can breathe. I do what I gotta do to get back up in this bullshit. I should try to sleep before I rinse and repeat.
I've got some big ideas. I've got some sweet dreams in my heart. I've got so much love I don't know to start. I don't know to start. I've got some big ideas. I've got some sweet dreams in my heart. I've got so much love I don't know to start. I don't know to start. Back home, flip on TV. Short nap for a long day's work. Be up early tomorrow, and I will get this shit done for sure. I've got some big ideas. I've got some sweet dreams in my heart. I've got so much love I don't know to start. I don't know to start. I don't know where to start.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike Gremlins to the new batch Cohen, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom. Hey, buddy, welcome back.
It's good to be back. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I bet.
For everyone who's seeing this, I've been a refugee for the last week, a refugee from Hurricane Florence, or tropical storm / depression Florence, which is what it became by the time it actually got to our area. but it looked like it was going to be major Hurricane Florence by the time it got to our area, and so I decided to grow this very sporting refugee beard that I've been wearing for the last week. So, but no, it's good to be back home. No major damage as far as we can tell, and so thanks. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's great. Great to have you. I'm glad you're safe. That is what really matters. Is that you?
That is what matters. Yeah.
That you are safe. Also, for anybody who isn't really watching our show, often we're streaming on YouTube for the first time, and really that picture looks great on my phone.
I'm really happy about this picture.
I am really happy about this picture. It's so very, very happy about that. First and foremost, let us thank Low Tide Kava Bar for the kava I drank on this episode. And oh man, we could talk about that, but I'm not sure if I'm legally allowed to. Well, fuck it, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Well, and I would like to thank. I got this in Florida. Zephyr Hills.
You got some Zephyr Hills water.
I got some Zephyr Hills water.
Some Zephyr Hills water, yes. I drink a lot of Zephyr Hills water.
In the beautiful Crystal Spring in Pasco County, Florida.
Pasco County is one county above me.
Oh.
It's meth country.
Good. That explains how refreshing it is.
Oh, it's very refreshing.
It's meth refreshing.
It's meth refreshing. It's almost energetic water.
I've been tweaking, and I thought it was the cantaloupe I had. I had a lot of cantaloupe today. There was a all you can eat breakfast buffet at the hotel we were staying at, and funny thing, when you take me to an all you can eat anything, I eat all that I can. And this was our last day, and I didn't care what they thought of me, so we loaded up massive plates full of cantaloupe and honeydew. And I assumed that the sugar high that I've been on all day was because of that, but it turns out it's because I've been drinking meth.
Yeah, you're drinking the wonderful meth water of Pasco County, Florida.
Just as well. Actually, that's better because I have a bunch of it. I took home a 32 pack. So
excellent.
Thank you, Whole Foods.
What did that cost you? $2?
No, I was shopping at Whole Foods, so it cost considerably more than that.
Yes. You could have gotten that at Walmart for about.
I was going to say, actually, I think my wife got this at Walmart. So yeah, probably $2.
Yeah.
We get the cheap water because you can also get it from a tap.
Right.
That's not where we spend our big money on the water. People get the alkaline water. We get the, I guess, acidic water. I don't know, whatever the opposite of water is.
Whatever the opposite of tap water. Whatever filter.
Get non-tap water, exactly. Right. So, but yeah, no, we had literally just gotten in about 30 minutes ago, and no one died. Our house did not blow away. And all in all, this was a powerful lesson in fleeing tropical storms, which is that you don't necessarily have to.
That's like the worst advice ever.
Like, okay, I mean, we've been here since Hugo, or at least I have. My wife hasn't, but this and Hugo were the only times we've ever evacuated. And the only reason we evacuated this one is because it looked like it might be like Hugo. Like we were getting shades of Hugo, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be even in the state next to our state if it's anything like Hugo. And it turned out not to be anything like Hugo. So that's just what we get. We had some fun. And shout out to my friends Chad and Callie Wood, who live in Jacksonville, which is where we were staying, who made us feel very welcome, and also who took us out to eat last night at a place that gave me the biggest piece of salmon I've ever had in my life. So thank you, Chad and Callie, for my salmon and the baked potato I had with it. And also for your friendship, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the friendship as well.
The friendship as well, but also mostly the salmon and the potato. Thank you for that.
So what you spent all day driving back, right?
Yes.
Yes. You left this morning. So from the very moment... No, I don't want to update right now. Jesus.
Yeah, not this moment. Yeah.
So I woke up to an email from my student loan provider.
Oh, wow.
And they said, hey, you forgot to turn in some paperwork. So your monthly payment, which is going to be due tomorrow, just went from what it is to 600 times the amount that it was. And I was not exactly how I wanted to wake up. obviously. So
Never is. Never is. No.
no. So I immediately get on the phone. I'm like, what do I need to do to stop this? And they're like, oh, well, you need to go to the studentloans.gov and fill out this form. And I was like, okay. So I went to do that, except studentloans.gov was down for the better part of the day.
Oh God.
I was freaking out at one point going, I don't have that kind of money in my bank account right now that I can just afford to like have you guys take from me, which you're going to do. And then our good friend Caleb Franz called me.
No.
While I'm working on all of this, kind of freaking out mildly, Caleb Franz calls me and he said, hey, man, can you do me a favor? I was like, yeah, what do you need? He goes, you're going to hate it. I said, do I have to deal with anything.gov? And he said, yes. And I went, okay, let's do it. So I was on the irs.gov doing something with Caleb. And then that site went down. So
good.
It was a good day for .govs and me.
I was going to say, was this a federal shutdown that we hadn't been made aware of?
By the end of it, like I finished getting the student loan stuff done finally after like 6 hours of me working on it. And Caleb just said, let's wait until tomorrow. I said, that sounds like a better plan right now.
Right.
Because I hate everything .gov. So at least I'm not going to have all of my money taken out of my bank account tomorrow, which is good.
Okay, so you did get the student loan thing worked out?
I got a temporary forbearance for them to reapprove my application. So
good. So yes.
Yes.
Or yes for now.
Right. Hopefully. Hopefully it remains that way.
Good.
We're going to find out on that one altogether. I'm certain I'm going to
very special episode of the Writer's Block.
I know that I'm going to get that notification of you just overdrafted in the middle of one of our live broadcasts, and everybody's going to hear about it right then.
It'll probably be good for ratings, ironically.
Right. So the Bula thing that I always say.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Okay. So and I literally do not know if I can get in trouble for what I'm about to say. So.
Wait, will I get in trouble for what you're about to say?
I mean, you're the co-host, so I think it'll be an entire. The umbrella.
I'm not even scared anymore. I don't care. Go ahead.
The umbrella is what will be getting in trouble.
This is under our corporate. This is not personally.
Right.
What is it Alex Jones says? We're TV personalities.
Right.
Take anything we're saying seriously. It's all entertainment.
This is just an act. This isn't how I act in real life.
This isn't real. My name's not even Spike, honestly.
Well, yeah, I found that out recently, actually. Shocked me. So Bula is a traditional Fijian term meaning to long life and good health that many of us will say whenever we're about to drink kava. You know, we'll all go Bula, and then we all drink together. It's like a sign of camaraderie, togetherness.
Right.
It's also Pavlovian. Whenever you say you have to drink kava. So somebody pulled a trademark on the word. So he owns the word now. He owns a Fijian greeting. So
would that be like owning shalom or hello or something like that?
Right, yeah, pretty much. That's what it's akin to, but they have now allowed it. So I know that people are working on a legal case.
Yeah, challenge to that, right?
Right, they're working on it, but it's going to be a really expensive challenge because it's already been awarded. Yeah. So that's why it's weird to say it, because one, I don't want to advertise for this guy by saying the word, and anytime you say the word, somebody's going to Google it, and eventually they're going to come to his business. So I don't.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking about just saying the full, because Bula is it's the abbreviation kind of. The full word is Bula Vinaka. So
then you just have to do that.
Yeah, Bula Vinaka. So yeah, from now on it's Bula Vinaka instead of the shortened version, which is
Bula Vinaka. I can try to remember that for as long as I can. The only thing I'm thinking in terms of, I think you're safe from legal repercussions because, I mean, for example, you know, people will say, "Come fly the friendly skies" and stuff like that. You know, unless you're not saying, you know, come join the Muddied Waters of Freedom, Bula, like you're just saying Bula, like in the common vernacular
Right.
that one would in Fiji.
Right. Which
You should be protected by Fijian.
Fijian law here in America.
I think you're okay. I think you're okay.
I think so, but I also don't want to advertise for him, so that's
the
why
other thing, right? Like you
Right.
don't want to.
So-
So you said Bulavanaka.
Bulavanaka.
Bulavanaka. That's much-
Bulavanaka to all you kava drinkers out there.
That sounds way more ethnic too.
It does.
And I'm all about that.
Right. Yeah. Did you just completely off another topic? Did you ever watch the movie Heathers? Did I talk to you about this?
Is that the one with the there's like a song about suicide or something like that?
Probably. Yeah. It had Winona Ryder and Christian Slater in it.
Yeah, I believe I've seen this movie, but and I think I've told you this. There's a period between 1995, 1995 and 2005, 6, that I don't remember
Gee, why?
terribly well. I have moments of very clear lucidity of memory, and then I have moments of lesser lucidity, and then I have entire months that just I blacked out. So, drugs are bad, and I do vaguely remember seeing Heathers, and there was something related to suicide, and it was a very, if I recall, it was like kind of a very emo movie.
Yeah, it's a very dark comedy.
Yeah,
kind of gothy.
Very,
It was emo before emo was a thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's all I remember about it. I couldn't tell you if I liked it. I couldn't tell you.
A lot of Cure fans probably.
Winona Ryder was in it, and that was pretty much it.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead.
So they made a TV show. They made a TV show based on this movie that was supposed to come out the week the Parkland shooting happened. So, so obviously they pulled it. But one of our regular listeners, Brian Wolf, messaged me and he goes, "Hey man, I found Heathers online." And I was like, "The movie? Yeah, I've seen it." And he goes, "No, the TV show." So I started looking into it, and then I found it online. Right. And he sold me on it because episode 3 is entitled "Date Rape and AIDS Jokes." I don't think
this was going to be on Netflix or what?
No. It was going to be on the old Nick at Night channel.
Oh, right after Fresh Prince, like
right. Yeah, I was watching this thing. It is like, obviously I don't find offense in anything because
right. You're like me. Like
right.
The more offensive it is, the more I have to look at it. Yeah,
which is how I felt during this show. And I was like, they did not pull this show because of the shooting in Parkland. They pulled it because they knew everybody in the world, with the exception of people like me and Spike and Muhammad and Caleb, like the people who have been on this show. Everybody else,
dozens of people around the world,
dozens of people are going to be fine. Everybody
and I don't
else...
have cable, so like if it's on Netflix, I got you. But if it's on cable, I'll wait till it's on Netflix.
There's a scene in it where this girl, she tries to kill herself at an anti-suicide rally to become more popular, and the headline the next day says, "Student ruins football game."
So basically, the Parkland shooting was a good pretext to pull a
show
that
just
they
to
were
pull
really
it. They were real worried about
trying to figure out how they could pull anyway.
Oh my! I watched the entire series in one night. I could not stop. It was amazing. I laughed so hard during that show, and it's exactly like the main characters. Who everybody in it's bad. There is not a good person.
I was going to say, if I recall from the movie, it was like there wasn't really a protagonist as much as like whoever you chose to sympathize with. Like there wasn't like really a good guy. Everyone was terrible. Is that a John?
No, it's not John Hughes.
Yeah, it's not a John Hughes movie.
No, that is definitely not. John Hughes at least was kind of feel goody all the time.
Okay, all right, because it had moments where it felt like I was watching. But I was also high, which would have the same feeling as a John Hughes movie. So.
Yeah, being high is a John Hughes feeling.
Being high is the equivalent of a John but only in the bad way, kids. Don't
Right, but don't,
only the bad parts of a John Hughes.
right. It's like the part of Breakfast Club where John Bender's yelling about what Christmas is like at his house. That's what being
And only that.
and
It's
only
that
it's
part
only
of
that.
Breakfast
It's
Club.
not the fun dancing when they're smoking pot part. That
None of
part's
that.
not it.
Only
No.
only the bad, only the negative part.
Right. It's Home Alone 2.
But if it were real, and you didn't know if Kevin was going to be okay at the end.
Right. So
So in other news,
so big news week. We just spent a half an hour doing that. Big news week. Brett Kavanaugh still not our Supreme Court.
still not a Supreme Court justice. How about that?
He is not a Supreme Court justice, and not only that, as predicted by so many people, he has a sexual assault allegation against him from 30-something years ago, which is absolutely amazing.
It's uncanny, actually.
Truly uncanny. So this happened at some point between 1979 and 1983. So,
Does she not know when it happened?
well, I just know that was when he was in high school.
Oh, okay. I thought she was saying it was sometime.
No,
okay,
no,
never
she-
mind. Anyway, go ahead.
It happened when she was 15 and he was 17, allegedly.
Okay.
It allegedly happened when she was 15 and he was 17, but
Right.
math is not my strong suit. So sometime between 79 and 83. This girl says that she was at a party and that Brett Kavanaugh and his buddy, Mike Judge, not that Mike Judge, which...
No relation.
No relation, that...
Sadly.
Sadly.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was really hoping when I read that. That Brett Kavanaugh and Mike Judge push her into a bedroom and try to kiss her and grope her over the clothes. And when she tried to scream, that Brett Kavanaugh put his hand over her mouth and she stated that she was in fear for her life because she was afraid he would inadvertently kill her by doing what he was doing.
Right, because he had his hand over her mouth.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And then something happened. The story gets a little weird. Something happened, and she was able to get out and hide in the bathroom until both of the boys left the room. She said that now, from what I've read, and I've read a bunch of articles on this, there were 4 boys in one story, and then it got down to 2 boys. She also the only person she ever told this to before telling Dianne Feinstein this summer was her couples therapy therapist back in 2012. Never told anybody else. She couldn't remember the name of Mike Judge, but remembered Brett Kavanaugh.
Does the couples therapist like, I haven't been following this because I was,
Right, you were
in
evacuated.
a hotel. There's really no reason I had internet access in the hotel. So it's not, I was in a hotel. I couldn't possibly. I honestly just haven't been following it. Did her therapist confirm what she said, or
So some of the notes that they are using come from the therapist.
okay?
And that's where some of the confusion sets in, because the therapist wrote down that there were 4 boys when she was saying there were only 2.
Oh, okay.
And then she said, no, there were 4 boys at the party. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's a crappy part. Like, I mean, for those 4 boys, it's a great party. But I mean, for the numbers don't seem right.
It's a 5 people party, right?
I've never been to a party where there's only been 4 boys, because that would have been the greatest party in the world.
And there were a bunch of girls and only 4 boys.
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Wow, that's quite a party.
I know, that's the party I've dreamed of.
So I know. So I mostly have just been hearing this, I guess, third hand or second hand or whatever. There was her that I kept hearing people say, well, her only eyewitness or her witness friend or whatever says it's not her friend, or her witness or something like that says it isn't true. Is that the thing about the counselor, that one says 4 and the other says 2?
No. Okay. So the only witness to the entire event besides her and Brett Kavanaugh is Mike.
Is Mike Judge? Oh, okay.
Is King of the Hill. and it's not actually King of the Hill. Mike Judge, don't.
You want to talk about getting sued?
Yeah, don't. He is the only other witness to it, and he is saying
he's
that
saying it's not
he's
true.
saying
Okay,
that it
okay.
never happened, and so some Republicans went and found like 35 women that Brett Kavanaugh has known since high school, which I find that to be amazing on its own, really.
A lot of women.
Yeah, I don't know 35 women from high school.
But you know, if you're going to these parties where it's you and 5 guys and all these chicks, you could rack up knowing 75 women
That's
pretty
true.
quickly,
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
even before you graduate. Honestly,
yeah. But so they have like 35 letters from women saying that he's like this stand-up guy who's never done
Right.
anything wrong.
Right.
And so, of course, the left is saying we need to stop this confirmation hearing, and the right's saying you guys are making up these allegations to try to ruin him. And I don't know. It's
yeah.
It is somewhere, man. Sorry, I am apparently being really unprofessional today. Got updates coming up, got notifications shooting off.
That's fine. That's fine because it's important that you be flustered during the show,
Right.
For entertainment purposes, mostly mine. So here's my thing with allegations like this. I used to be of the opinion whenever I would hear these like old allegations, I'm like, why didn't they say anything before? It's obviously fake.
Right.
Why would blah 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 blah. And then the Bill Cosby thing happened. And it turned out it was all true, or at least a considerable number of them were true, to the point where the guy's, facing prison. I think either this month or next is when his sentencing is. So, and then talking to people who have actually been raped and didn't tell anyone, and because there was shame. And meanwhile, she wasn't raped; she was, I guess, attempted rape or
Right. It's assaulted.
Sexual assault, harassment. I don't know what the lines are there, but she was, whatever. She was attacked,
Right.
Or she alleges that she was attacked. So I've talked to people who actually were raped or were harassed, and they didn't tell anyone until long after, and it wasn't actionable anymore because there was obviously no way to prove it or anything, and that there was shame, and that you feel fear, and that you don't want to upset the apple cart, and all of that stuff. So it could be true.
So
I'm not going to say it's not true.
Right, and I'm not going to say it's not true either. But
Right.
I mean, he worked in the Bush White House. He's been a federal judge for however long, I don't even know how long.
Right.
For a while. And in one of the articles I read, her husband, which I'm not gonna say her name even though it's easily Googleable. Her husband stated that she at one time worried that he could one day be appointed to the Supreme Court. And I feel as though if this was a concern of yours at some point,
you would maybe tell someone.
You would probably tell somebody else. And I'm not taking it away. I'm not saying that this didn't.
It's one of the, it's, you don't want to say like, oh, well, I mean, I will say it's awful suspicious.
It's fishy.
Is what I want to say is I don't want to say this woman's making it up or that she's elaborating or whatever else. I just want to say that when the guy is 24, 48 hours away from being confirmed at that point, more than likely. And every other stop has been pulled out to try to stop this, what is essentially an inevitable conclusion.
Right.
And even people are going, watch, they're going to pull a sexual assault allegation out of their hat in the last minute. And then that's what happens. You can't help but think, goodness,
Clarence
I wonder
Thomas.
if maybe there's some politics to this involved. And I say this as someone that, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I don't really care if this guy gets appointed or not. Like, I really don't, I'm not particularly concerned with the machinations of the state. I think a lot of it's theater to begin with, which is why I love it so much.
Especially this confirmation hearing. The
whole thing is pure
Oh,
theater.
man, this thing was extremely just plain and simple theater.
Cory Booker releasing public
I am
documents.
Spartacus.
He is Spartacus. And so, it could be real. It could be fake. It does seem awful suspicious. What I like is the fact, of course, that if this were the other way around and, Elena Kagan or what's her name, Sonia Sotomayor, who Obama had if during this point of their nominations process, someone came out and accused them of something similar from 30 years ago with no way to substantiate, no way for her to really defend against it, blah, 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 blah. You would have the right saying, yes, the left likes to rape boys or whatever, and you'd have the left say, but what you're hearing from both sides would immediately flip entirely for partisan reasons.
Exactly.
For the most part. I mean, you have some reasonable people that would have the same opinion regardless. My opinion is the same regardless, which is that it could be true. There's no way to prove it or disprove it.
There's zero way to prove it or disprove it.
There's zero way to do that. It really comes down to, do you think it's true or not? And yeah, I mean, it's awful suspicious, the timing. And it comes down to one of my friends, Devin, generally, he put out, he said,
is he just generally Devin, or is that really his name?
I believe his last name is Generally, because he has a brother.
He's Devin,
whose last name is also Generally.
He's Devin, generally.
He's Devin. Generally. He's also an anarchist like me. And he said, I like the idea of every single appointee or politician being accused at the most inopportune moment of sexual harassment that they can't defend themselves against. The theory being that all government would collapse if every person that tried to join the government were accused of rape. But that aside, I just, it seems a little suspicious.
But we live in an election, like we live in a constitutional republic, which means like people are elected democratically. So if everybody's getting rape accusations, somebody's still getting elected.
And everyone's getting raped.
Right. or accused of it. So we would just then literally, we would just have an entire legislature of people of rapists.
And accused rapists.
Right.
And it would, and eventually it would be like, hey, look, we've all been raped. Okay. Cause I mean, at that point,
it would just, the numbers would just seem to say,
it was like, well, is he going to get the rapist vote or the raped vote? It would really come down to two Americas, the raped and the, rabbit hole I didn't expect to go into.
This is going to be our first live stream on YouTube, and they're going to pull it immediately.
They're going to say, this is what you came here to say? But the two Americas. But yeah, so it seems suspicious to me. It could very well be true. I'm interested to see if this really, because it would set a precedent that, like, if I don't like a nominee to something, I can say they raped me.
Yeah.
Even if this is true. So let's say that this is true. Every single thing she said is 100% true. And so therefore, it is correct for him not to become a federal judge, because meanwhile, he's going to go on to do far more worse things as a federal judge than he could have ever done to her in that room. But anyway, it's a whole other subject. But all that aside,
my God.
All that aside,
please support us on Patreon, because this video is not being monetized.
I hope you guys are enjoying this while it's up, because yeah. But
we don't have lawyers.
Aside, we're against rape, by the way.
Yeah, we are 100%.
We are so against rape. I hate rape. All that aside, if literally any time someone gets appointed to something, someone accuses them of rape, and the precedent's been set that, well, I mean, he's been accused of rape or she's been accused of rape, we have to say, so it's kind of sad in that way, because that's going to spill over into the private sector, where if someone is a successful CEO who's trying to do things and he gets accused of rape or she gets accused of rape, it's a tough one. Oh, my dog decided to come in. Hey, Axie, how are you doing?
Yeah,
I love you. Anyway, so yeah, rape's bad.
It is a tough one, but I mean, this isn't the first time that you've seen something like this. Like 1991, Clarence Thomas, like right before he was getting confirmed, Anita Hill came out saying that he sexually harassed her at work.
Right.
Really weird.
Same timing.
Really weird stuff too, if I remember correctly. Like I was young when that.
Yeah, he asked her questions about porn or something like that, and so Ted Kennedy and Jesse Helms are like asking probing questions about,
Ted Kennedy was just doing that for his own bank.
Oh, he loved it. He loved it. So you've got these,
Ted Kennedy's like, oh yeah, I can get off to this later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm gonna
you've
go
got, yeah,
drink
exactly. You've got
I'm
like
gonna go drink 6 cases of beer and drive around.
exactly. You've got some paragons of sobriety asking probing questions about, hardcore porn. Very 90s moment if there ever were one. But yeah, so that was what happened with that. And then he ended up getting confirmed because she couldn't prove it.
Right.
And it really came down to, do we believe her? No, I choose not to believe her because I like her, I like Clarence Thomas's politics is ultimately what, that decision wasn't. I would be shocked if that isn't what happens now. If it isn't what happens now, then that will speak to a lot of change that's happened due to social shaming through social media. In the age of just CNN, maybe you could get away with it, but in the age of Me Too, hashtag
Hashtag
Me
me
Too,
too.
maybe you can anymore. But that'll be it'll be interesting to watch. Well, what happens now? One of my Facebook friends said, be careful because you may be celebrating this, but this now means that if you're a successful male and someone wants to derail you, they can just accuse you of rape from 30 years ago. And what are you going to do about it?
Right.
You can say, I didn't do it, but if enough people don't like you, they can just choose not to believe you.
Right.
But I guess that was always true. So we'll see what happens. I'll
And
be interested to see what happens.
That's also why I've strove. Why I've worked my entire life to be mediocre. That's why I've never wanted to be too successful. I don't want, false rape accusations to come out against me.
Just under the radar.
Just under the radar. But I mean, so the hashtag Me Too thing. So Asia Argento, I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, Asia Argento. Yeah.
I think it's actually pronounced Asia Argento. But yeah, she ended up becoming a victim of her own movement because.
And I'll defend her because the kid was 17, which is that creepy that a 30-something-year-old is messing around with a 17-year-old? Yeah, it's also totally legal in all but like 1 or 2 states. It happened to be illegal in California, but if she were here, people would go, oh, that's kind of creepy, but totally legal. So people are like, oh, she's a child molester. Like 17-year-old male model actor who she seduced. Excuse me, call it creepy, call it hypocritical. It ain't rape, and it certainly isn't child molestation.
So the only thing that I find weird about that one is the fact that they had met and started a friendship when he was 7.
Yeah,
that's the part that I found to be really weird.
Yeah.
That's the part where I'm like, man, you'd known him for 10 years, and were you just like, well, I just can't wait any longer. I'm just That's the weird part to me.
It is a weird thing. And I know you woke up today saying, I want to make a video about age of consent nuances. But it is a weird...
Trust me, after the weekend I had, I really don't want to get into that.
Let's just... If Bula's not going to get me sued, let me delve into the wonderful world of age of consent arguments. No, it's weird. And again, I would... regardless of legality, it's definitely creepy. And then she was like, don't tell anyone, but she was the one that took pictures. It was weird.
Don't tell anyone. I'll give you $350,000 not to tell anybody.
Not to tell anyone. Yeah, it's so it is weird. It ain't rape, it ain't child molestation. Get over yourselves. But like you said, she fell, hoisted by her own petard. She fell victim to the whole, it doesn't matter what the facts say. If someone says this, and
right,
you gotta go with it because Me Too.
Because hashtag Me Too.
There's probably some good to that. I think there's more bad than good to that because yes, it will mean that some people who were raped or sexually assaulted or harassed or whatever, who have no proof, will be believed. But it also opens the door to like, oh, this person's doing well. They raped me.
Right.
It's on them to prove they didn't. Well, no, that's not how it works. So it's a tough one, and I'm glad that I don't know all the details, but my understanding is that the Department of Education is rolling back some of the Title IX stuff. That if you accuse someone of rape on campus, there's a hurdle of evidence that has to be. You can't. They're not just going to assume it's true, and it's being labeled as, it's going to make it easier to rape people. Well, that's like saying that, that's like saying that our right to due process makes it easier to kill people.
Right.
I guess sort of maybe,
Do you,
yeah.
do you know
But it
why Title
also,
IX is being rolled back?
what's that?
Do you know the case that's making Title IX get rolled back?
I don't know all the details. I
Okay.
just have looked at headlines.
This shit's crazy. So USC Trojans fan all day, go Trojans, right? The Trojans kicker from like 2 years ago, I think. He and his girlfriend, who is on, I don't remember. She is also a student athlete.
Okay.
They were having very active sex in her dorm room.
Very active.
Very active.
My favorite kind of sex is very active.
Right, the very active kind. They were not Pentecostaling it. They were going full on, 50 Shades.
Nice.
And somebody heard or saw their actions through a window or through, like, just heard it, thought she was being raped, reported it. He gets kicked off the team and kicked out of school. She testified saying, no, he wasn't raping me. That was what we do for fun. She was told it was a Title IX violation for her to even talk about it.
For God's sake.
They aren't allowed to talk to each other until it's been wrapped up. So he ended up getting kicked out of school, kicked off the football team, can't see his girlfriend. Neither one of them can talk about it. She can't even testify on his behalf because it's a Title IX violation.
Yeah. So time for that to go. It's not often that I applaud government, but it's usually when they're rolling back something that they put in place, and this would, that'll do, pig.
Right.
And I've heard some other horror stories too, and they were in response to the fact that there were girls that were raped and shamed into not telling anyone. But you don't replace that with all you have to do is allege that someone did something, and that's enough to ruin their life.
Right.
Because that creates a very powerful weapon of, you raped me. I don't like you. You raped me.
Right.
But you can't do anything. How long does it take for that to devolve into everyone just accusing, whoever gets to accuse each other? It's like a hot potato in reverse. The first person to accuse the other of rape has destroyed their life. There's a reason for the concept of due process and in or outside of government.
And
if
even
someone accuses you of something, you have a right to.
And I do want, like, okay,
proof of what you're accused of.
I get it that if you're in a school and you can even transfer this over to, the private sector, because schools aren't private sector. I don't care.
Exactly.
So if I'm in an office with somebody and if I'm in an office with somebody and I'm accusing somebody of rape, I don't want to see them at the office every day. I understand why schools kind of went a little stupid on it and were like, well, let's kick that kid out of school until this is all settled. But in an office, it wouldn't work that way. They would, try to transfer people to as far away from each other as they can until everything everything was figured out, legally and through human resources. In the school, they're just like, oh, you accuse him of rape, he's out because you don't want to be around.
Here's the thing. Okay, we live in a statist society. It is what it is. We can't do certain things that would actually be more just because it's called vigilante justice and it's against law. Okay, fair enough. Statist society, things are governed by laws, which are carried out by law enforcement. You're on a campus of a public school, essentially a public school, or at least a publicly funded school. If you've been raped, call the police. Right? If there's an accusation of rape, why doesn't it get handed over to law enforcement? Why is the school... why are they even involved? I to the extent that...
And so
why are they the ones making the decision? Why would it not be anywhere else, the police making that decision?
Right. That's kind of what if there's a police report being filed and an investigation going on, I can't see them kicking somebody out of school until it's innocent until proven guilty in this country. That's the way it is.
Yeah. If there's a situation they come... again, and this is where judges get involved, whether someone has bail or something like that, the same thing would apply. If someone is violently raping someone or even non-violently and they're caught in the act and there's multiple witnesses and, the police then they can say, okay, look, there's the burden of evidence for, preemptively stopping this is one thing. If it's an after the fact, I have proof that this person raped me and there's, something like that, they can decide. But I would think that again, in a statist society, that there would need to be some kind of, collaboration here between law enforcement and faculty at the school to decide in the meantime, while this is playing out, whether to have the person, not just you go and no one can talk to each other, and that's just stupid. So I'm glad that's being removed.
I mean, if it was the case of like that swimmer kid, I can't remember his name off the.
Brock
Turner,
whatever,
Brock Turner.
Yeah, Brock Turner, I think.
Yeah, if it was a case of like Brock Turner, yeah,
exactly.
Kick that kid out.
Exactly. There's multiple witnesses. There was the two foreign the two, I think, like Swedish or Norwegian students, exchange student, two foreign exchange students, the two foreign students that came across it on their bikes and stopped them. Whatever. That was actually what I was thinking. I just couldn't come up with his name when I was saying that. That's an example of get him out of there. There's more than enough evidence starting off to just remove him until he's had his due process.
Right.
Something where it's like what you described, a third party says someone was being raped, that would end immediately by the girlfriend saying, "No, I wasn't. This is how we get down." That would have been the end of that.
Right. That should have been it. Over.
Done.
The fact that
no one would have been called, or maybe the police would have been called. The police show up and they're like, "Oh wow, you guys are really going at it.
Right,
have a great day."
Yeah.
And
this is what you're into. Cool. All right. Well, no law against it.
Right. Exactly. There's no law against active sex yet, and and so that would be it. So yeah, I
just in the church.
Exactly. So so we'll see, but I'm interested to see how this Kavanaugh thing plays out. I hope that it, and I hate to say something like this, I hope that this doesn't, and not because of him, I hope that this doesn't affect Kavanaugh negatively, and here's why. Because there's unless some kind of evidence or proof comes out or something, obviously that changes everything. If there's multiple witnesses, if assuming that it stays like this, where there's no substantiation whatsoever, and there's no way to prove it and whatever else, I hope it doesn't affect him negatively, because if it does, then that spills out well outside of government, and it becomes this thing where in greater society, that if someone's doing well, they can be immediately derailed by a completely unsubstantiated and not even attempted to substantiate accusation of rape or sexual assault or whatever. And so if for that reason, I hope it doesn't play out. And if it does play out that he gets negatively affected, then I hope that he had actually done it, and that it's a real thing, and that he's getting his just desserts at the very least. So.
Right. And if he did do it, yeah, he deserves that. 100%. He 100%
absolutely.
deserves it.
Yep.
But like we said, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, there's no way to prove it either way. She's never said anything to anybody about it except for 2012 in a therapy session.
Right.
But she's never said anything to anybody else until 6 years later, after the 2012 event. She says something to Dianne Feinstein, who then today, Dianne Feinstein says, "I can't actually tell you if it's all honest."
But we need to stop things.
Right. It's just like, well, why are you throwing that monkey wrench into your own plan? You just really, basically said you think she may be lying.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. So if you've been, whoever's watching this, if this has happened to you, say it immediately, like now. Like say, if this has happened to you, haven't told anyone, tell people, because
not in the comments below. Call the police. Don't not in the comments.
We could use the comments, but I mean, we're I won't tell someone not to comment. I mean, the best place. This is not the best forum.
This is not the best forum for that.
If this is the forum you choose, then Godspeed. but probably maybe call the police and then come back over and comment.
Right.
If you feel so moved to do so. But the longer you wait, the less people are going to take you seriously. And if you don't feel comfortable saying it, then understand that if the person that you accuse ends up, becoming in some powerful position, okay, great. Now you're going to tell people. A lot of people aren't going to take it seriously. So if it happens, then tell people. And it's not like, this isn't victim blaming. It's not your fault or whatever, but the sooner people know, the better. The sooner people know, the more likely something can actually happen to that person. on your for what they did to you. So that's what I would say to that.
Right. That would be the most important thing. Like
That would be the most important thing. Like that something bad happened to
And-
the correct, just thing happens to that person for what they did to you.
right. And I do understand that you might feel fear, or afraid you'll be ostracized,
of course.
not believed, or that there might be negative blowback from the person that you're accusing. But and I hate to put it this way, like I really hate to put it this way, but for the greater good of everybody else, you kind of have to do it. Like,
Yeah, especially in this kind of situation.
right.
So
Yeah. Now that we've really gone as far as we possibly can, and still didn't get kicked off of YouTube, so
as far as we know, we may have been ghosted.
we may have been ghosted.
Graylisted or something.
We're still on there though. So let's talk. We didn't get a chance to talk about Nike last week.
Oh man, Nike.
So Nike stocks hit an all-time high.
So here's the thing. I'm not a huge Colin Kaepernick fan. First of all, I don't really follow football, so I don't know if he was good, bad, whatever. My understanding is that
he was not
pretty much
good.
He was what?
He was not good.
Okay, yeah, my understanding was he was never like one of the best, and then he was starting to kind of fall off towards the end there. So it was sort of well timed that he would, whatever. I support anyone who is, making a statement against what they perceive to be unjust or, injustice. I take him less seriously after, wearing a Che Guevara shirt or something like that, because it's like, okay, you want to talk about, state brutality. This guy went around the world murdering people for, wanting to own stuff. So, and
murdering
he was,
people who were black.
A massive racist, massive, by our standards now, homophobe. Back then, that was sort of the standard, but
Right.
he hated gays. He
hated gays. He hated blacks. He hated capitalists, which
he hated
Colin
a lot of people and was willing to murder lots of people. So if you're against police brutality, you really need to be against Che too, because
Right.
Che was only a revolutionary until he was in charge, and then he was the most brutal person you could find to he was just as hard of an enforcer as our revolutionaries were after they got power. But that's a whole other story.
Che was kind of the poster boy for police brutality.
What's that?
Che was kind of the poster boy for police brutality.
Che was a very brutal policeman once he was no longer the revolutionary and he was the enforcer. He was a very brutal policeman.
Yeah,
he would definitely not just tase you.
No.
And a taser on Che's belt would remain unused.
Yeah.
So
Probably
not
still
a
in
huge.
the
Go ahead.
package. It would probably still be in the package, like just completely unopened.
He wouldn't even know what it was. He'd pull it out, fire it, see that it didn't murder the person in front of him, and then that would be the end of
Right.
that. So yeah, no. If someone told him off the bat this is non-lethal, you're right. It would remain in the packaging.
It would be like a transformer from the '80s from smart kids who'd never opened them.
Right, exactly. So yeah, from very smart kids. So off the bat, I'm like, Colin Kaepernick, whatever. But I support his right to do what he did, and I'm not, all this stand for the flag. Like, it's a flag and it's a song and it's, get over yourselves. But so right off the bat, I'm a fan of triggering people. I'm an even bigger fan of targeted demo marketing. And so when I saw what Nike did, I'm like, you shrewd bastards. Because Nike obviously cares about justice. Like, I as soon as I saw this, I'm like, I just cheered because and I saw it coming, and everyone's like, Nike didn't give a crap about you, and it never did.
No.
Nike watches watches people kill each other for their shoes and laughs all the way to the bank.
Give me them Jordans.
And I'm fine with that too. That's that is a pure supply and demand. So as soon as they did this, I'm like, the level of demo marketing and targeted demo profiling that they did before even thinking of doing this was so intense that I knew it could only work. And I figured out right off the bat, and my friend Jeremy Knopf, who who's he has a web design company. He's a very big in the search engine optimization and digital marketing world, and he wrote an article about this. He said, whether you agree with what Nike did or not from a political or moral standpoint, you have to know that this will work for them. And he laid out why. He said they looked at their demo markets, their target demographics, and saw that Kaepernick, and specifically what Kaepernick was doing, was very popular with them. They saw that.
Yep.
They also saw that the people who were going to be the most actively against it were not their market in the least, and that they would get a massive amount of earned media that they wouldn't have to pay for as a result of it, and that their haters, the people that would be out there, cutting the swooshes off of their socks and setting their, setting
their Nikes on fire,
setting their Air Jordans and their stuff on fire, possibly going out and buying stuff. I mean, you want to talk about virtue signaling, going to Foot Locker to, is Foot Locker even a thing anymore?
Yes, I don't know.
Going on Amazon,
yes,
and buying some Air Jordans and setting them on fire to show those bastards at Nike. Like, there was no downside here for Nike, and I knew it. And I knew there would be a drop because people would, there'd be the panic sellers who would go, "Oh no, there's a boycott." And anytime there's a boycott, and that the right, that people in the conservative camp would, immediately throw out there that, oh, Nike stock is down, they're going to fall apart. This, multi-billion-dollar company that most of their sales aren't even in the U.S.
Right.
And I wear New Balances. I knew what was going to happen.
I don't even know what kind of shoes.
What's that?
I think I'm wearing Asics. I'm not even 100% sure what they are.
I wear Pumas that I get on sale in Canada.
I wear Chucks mainly.
What's that?
I wear Converse Chucks.
Well, that's owned by Nike.
Oh, then I wear a shit ton of Nike.
So there you go. So see, you didn't even know it. You're a Nike person.
I'm all in for Nike if they own Chucks.
So I was just a huge fan of it, and I loved watching people who suddenly were against sweatshops. They suddenly were outraged at
That's my favorite part about this entire thing is all of these people who are so against sweatshops and Nike's awful because the tiny little children hands that make my Chucks, apparently, which I just learned.
And every other shoe out there.
The tiny little children hands shouldn't be doing all of this work for 22 cents a day or whatever it is they pay, and they get all mad about it.
Starving to death instead.
And then they use Colin Kaepernick in an ad, and those kids can make some more shoes. I'm going to buy 3 pair.
Oh, you're talking about the other side.
Yeah.
The people who were outraged at this selectively and now are, they do that, but they also support Colin Kaepernick and Black Lives Matter.
Right. So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to buy Nike because I support Colin Kaepernick and, Black Lives Matter. And
right.
I also hate all the people who are being dumb, which literally they're being dumb enough to cut the Nike swooshes out of their socks. You've already paid for them. Don't ruin your socks.
What are you doing?
Right. Don't burn your Nikes. Anymore. Don't buy any more. It's like the idiots that were burning or breaking their Keurigs. Like
I love that. I loved it.
It made no sense.
I was waiting for the smashing of the Harleys when they decided to Trump's tariffs that they were going to move production to Europe. I'm like, I can't wait. It didn't happen.
But yeah, I loved watching that. People were like, I'm going out to buy Nikes. And I'm like, you hate sweatshops. Why? You fight about human rights.
You hate people not being paid $15 an hour to scrub toilets.
Right.
Forget sweatshops. You hate, moist brow shops.
Right.
So, and now
moist
you're gonna throw hundreds of dollars into one of the purveyors of the sweatshop industry.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have people that are normally like, raw capitalists selectively, who once again selected not being raw capitalists and are now deeply against the slave labor in that's happening in most of the world. I just want to take a moment, and I don't know if I speak for Matt on this, but I personally, I love sweatshops. Spike Cohen hearts sweatshops. And I'll tell you why. Because I love them for the same reason that the people who work there love them. Because more often than not, the alternatives to them are prostitution, and not prostitution like, Tinder hookups for $100, like prostitution, like, you know, basically, human smuggling prostitution, and child prostitution, usually for, Western, sex tourist or whatever,
Right.
or having, and this again, having your kids do this because you all have to do it so you don't die, picking through garbage that's being brought over from first world countries, hopefully to find something that, food that hasn't spoiled, or metal that you can sell, mining for lithium, which almost everyone dies from within a few years. If it's in certain parts of the world, being a child soldier for some, marauding gang or whatever. These are the
Coney?
alternatives that they have.
What was that, the Coney 2020 thing, or?
Yeah, like that. Yeah, exactly, like that, or like the child soldiers for the blood diamonds and stuff like that.
Right.
These are they don't have, the alternative isn't Section 8 or food stamps or the SNAP program or getting a nice job at Wendy's. Like the alternative to sweatshops is dying.
Or yeah, it
Sustenance farming. So which sounds very noble, but what it actually is tilling very poor land that usually isn't very fertile and hoping you're able to get enough food from it to not die, and about half the time that not happening and you die.
Right.
So these are the alternatives. The end of struggling to not die and often not winning, because it's not a noble thing to struggle not to die, because usually you do die and you're miserable the whole time. The alternative to that and the movement from that into industrialization, into actually having money in your pocket, into not worrying if you're going to starve to death ever. The first rung on that ladder is sweatshops. And the first rung on that is that you can go somewhere, do what we would consider to be, and is brutal labor. And there's a couple steps below working at Nike. That's already, you've moved up a couple pegs. Doing that work and actually getting money. It's pennies to us, but to them it's actual money.
Right.
And they actually have capital now
and that's
that
what
they
people
can use to purchase it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
I could do. I could rant for 10 hours.
I know. And that's what people that's what people here aren't getting. It's like they're like, oh, these sweatshops, they get 23 cents a day and blah blah blah. I'm like, over there, 23 cents a day.
Good money to them.
Right. 23 cents a day may be $200 a day for us. Like, I don't know where any of the sweatshops.
Right. Yeah, I know, I get it.
But there was a woman who spoke at, which conference was it? I'm going to say that it was for Young Americans for Liberty, but I'm not 100% sure on this. But she was an African woman who came over, and she grew up in like dirt poor Africa. And she comes over and goes to school and studies economics. And she started railing, and she was speaking at this event, and she starts railing on companies like Tom's. Now, Tom shoes.
Okay.
Like every basic white girl has them.
Yeah. They're like the kind of chunky looking. Yeah, I know. Okay, I know.
So Tom's big thing is they're like, look, you buy a pair of shoes from us, which are these, canvas, comfortable, like walking shoe.
Right.
You buy a pair of shoes from us, and we'll send a pair exactly like it to Africa, right? They closed down every shoe manufacturer in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Because they were just giving them shoes. So no longer people needed to buy shoes. So all of these people lost their jobs. And they said that they keep finding that this is happening over and over and over again because Westerners are like, oh, we got to figure out a way to help these people.
Give them free stuff. Yeah,
let's give them shoes. Yeah. Let's give them whatever. But then it's taking people out of jobs, and then they become reliant, and then they don't have any money for anything else.
And instead of having a job, they have shoes.
Right.
Yeah.
And how many pairs of Toms does one person need? Now, granted, there's a lot of people in Africa, but
but even still, like you said, it's offsetting the market by sending all these shoes somewhere, and quality shoes, I would assume. You've just put it compared to probably what they were putting out of business. You've just put a bunch of people out of business. They're now dirt poor, and you've replaced, and with the best of intentions, I'm sure, and a little bit of virtue signaling in there, but the reality is that didn't help anyone, and it actually, or it did help some people, but it hurt a lot of people, and
it helped me with a pair of shoes that I spent too much money on.
Right. And it makes you can say to people, well, by buying these shoes,
right,
another pair of shoes exactly like this is going to a poor African child. And the thing is, we live in such a level, thank you, whatever level of capitalism the government allows us to have, we live in such a level of post-scarcity that we can look at dirt poverty and be so far removed from it that we can only see it in the abstract. We can't even begin to process what the reality of that means. We can say, oh, yeah, well, they're starving to death, but we don't get what that means. It means that, okay, great, you gave them some food, now what? You gave them a pair of shoes, now what?
Right.
You, unless you're willing to house food, unless you're willing to create a welfare system for the entire world outside of the first world, then now what? And then once you do that, now what? Because now you have a bunch of people that are reliant, have no marketable skills, are creating a bunch of children because they know someone's going to take care of them. There's consequences to these actions.
Right.
And all of that to say, if you look at the industrial history of Europe and the Americas, it started with what we're seeing now in the sweatshops. It started with kids working in freaking coal mines because
getting the black lung at 12.
Yeah, getting black lung. And I'm not saying don't, there are preventable things. Like, okay, great. So you put a little screen on the kid's face so we don't get black lung. Like, I'm not saying like that they should be exposed to things or whatever.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
grab a shirt, dip it in water, put it over the mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, give the kid a wet shirt, but put a canary in that old coal mine there.
Right.
But what I am saying is that looking at it from our Western, unless we're willing to take these kids in and take care of them ourselves and raise them to live our Western lifestyle, since we're not, and since they outnumber us, since there's like a billion of them.
Yeah, by a large margin.
Exactly. Since that's not feasible, let the market do what it does. Let industrialization within a couple of generations work these people into something. China has a middle class now, and their society is changing as a result, because look at Japan. Japan is only like 3 generations removed from utter dirt poverty after being nuked.
After having 2 nuclear bombs dropped on them by us.
By this horrible us. And now look at where they are. Entirely because of what started as sweatshops, they now have stronger unions than the U.S. does.
Right.
They have insane protections to the point where they're having to start scaling them back because their labor is unaffordable. 3-4 generations. Let the market do what it does. Stop emoting on something because you see some poor kid that's, ask those people what they think. Ask them why they've lined up around the block every time one of these places open. Ask these kids why they're, why they're doing it and why they're happy that they're actually bringing money home to their family so that they can live. They can continue living.
So so that way they can contribute to the family, help out. So that way they can eat at night and they aren't relying on anybody else to do it, not knowing if it's going to come. At least you're going to get the money.
Go ahead.
At least they're going to know you're going to get the money at the end of a day in the sweatshop, even if it is only the quarter.
And so that their kids can get some kind of education so that they don't have to do that.
Right.
Like, we're so far removed from what our even great-grandparents did, much less 4 or 5 generations back. We're so far removed from that. It's insane to me. And I could go on for hours about this, but I love sweatshops. I'm a big fan of them. I wish they bring them back here. Child labor laws are ruining this country.
And so are you more of a fan of sweatshops or price gouging?
Oh man, price gouging. Funny you should mention that, Matt, out of nowhere.
It's almost as though I had notes.
Big almost like we had talked about that previously.
Yeah, it's weird.
This was a hurricane week. And funny thing, Matt, I saw a hurricane was coming towards me, and I went to the store and bought some water.
That sounds like
price.
That sounds like a very smart and fiscally conservative thing to do.
How odd that I would not wait for a storm to have passed over me to buy something that I absolutely need or will die.
Right.
So I want to talk about price gouging since you brought it up.
Since
You
I
know,
brought it up.
since you brought it up,
Since
why not?
completely unprovoked, I brought up price gouging.
Okay, so, and I actually had this discussion with someone who said, you know, the people who do this should be locked up or whatever. And I
Right.
said, okay, why didn't they buy? So, okay, so let's all say that we agree that it's wrong for someone to sell a, let's say, 12 pack of water, bottled water for $15 or $20, $10, whatever,
Whatever.
when it normally is only $2 or $3. Let's say that we all agree that that's morally incorrect. Why didn't they buy it from the store that was still selling it for that price, or for only a little bit more? And they said, well, they were the only store in town. I was like, oh, okay. So the other stores are closed, and if you try to go into them, if you can even get to them, the police will come and arrest you. So that's not available unless you want to risk looting. Which, hey, you know what? In that kind of a situation, I don't. People, oh, they're looting. You know what? If it's truly a disaster and you're looting to not die, you can deal with the property rights issues later.
Right,
Guys,
and
try-
when it comes to that, looting is one thing. If you're going to get bread, milk, water, toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
I get it. Looting
Right.
for survival is not TVs.
Right, exactly. It's not TVs. And here's the other thing: if it truly is like one of those, well, there needs to be replica. Okay, then you can pay the person after the fact or whatever. Like, I'm not going to give someone a hard time in a natural disaster for getting water, whatever.
Right.
So, but let's say, okay, you don't want to loot, or it's not available or whatever. So your only option is this water. Why are you not demonizing those stores that closed? They weren't even going to sell it to you, and they said, well, I'd rather they just close than to sell it at an inflated price. And I said, okay, so you would rather
Not have the
no
option to
water be
have it.
available. So you'd rather people starve, people die of not having of dehydration, than for them to pay more than what is the pre-hurricane market value for something. And they blocked me, oddly enough.
Weird. That's so strange.
How weird that they wouldn't want to, continue this argument with me on Facebook. And so that, but this is where. Oh man, how far back do I want to go? So I have a theory about why we're like this. We have been raised on Disney movies instead of moral fables. So my parents were boomers, but most people my age, their parents were Gen Xers. So I would say their grandparents, their great grandparents, they were raised on moral fables like Mother
What is your
Hen
definition of a Gen Xer? Hang on.
I'm technically a millennial, and I hate that.
I hate giving away any clues to how old I am, but
Right.
but based on some models, I am a Gen Xer, and there ain't no way you can be my kid.
Well, you're like, I think, at the cusp of a Gen Xer. So like most people, I'm in the South where people have kids in their teens. So most
Right.
people my age, their parents are like late 40s, early 50s, which is like sort of the cusp of Gen Xers, the beginning cusp of Gen Xers. So like my older brother, who is a solid Gen Xer, could be my father,
Right.
like, age wise, and in the South that would be common. So, but my parents are boomers. So my parents, my grandparents, obviously the further back you, they were raised on like these fables about like, if you don't, and it was kind of brutalist, but again, that was a different society. They didn't live in post scarcity where you could gaze at your navel all day. And so they would teach them things like, like the mother hen fable with, the mother hen's asking the other animals, well, who will help me with this part of making the pie? And each one goes, not I, said the pig, not I, said the cow, not I, said the chicken, blah, blah, blah. And so all the way at the end, and then she has this pie or cake or whatever it was. And then each of them comes up and says, well, do I get my slice? And she's like, well, were you there when I wanted to do this? Were you there when this had to be done? Were you there? And so they got moral fables about how, if you didn't work, you'd starve. And if you didn't, like if
you got the grasshopper and the ants or whatever.
Grasshopper and the ant, where if the ant's putting away for the winter or whatever.
Right. And the
grasshopper's just playing around, which I don't know if that's, naturally correct or whatever, but the grasshopper ends up dying and the ant presumably eats the grasshopper.
See, but in the Disney fable.
What's that?
Like Disney made that into a cartoon.
At the beginning, but see now Disney stuff is
but still at the end of it they changed it because in the fable the grasshopper dies at the end because he didn't store away for the winter, but in the Disney one the ants see him and they take him in and they're like, this should
show him their ways. Yeah,
this should be a lesson for next year, and it's like, well, yeah, he learned that you're gonna take him in.
He can just not do it and you take him in. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And so that was the beginning. Now they don't even bother with that anymore. Now it's purely just follow your heart. And there are like so many different episodes I want to have where I just rant like I'm in my 60s. But this is a big one for me because
my gears.
People are so far. What's that?
You know what really grinds my gears? And then Spike goes.
I could do a live 24-hour grinds my gears almost every day. But this is a big one to me because people don't think about. It's not right that they're charging that much. Why?
Why?
Well, because it's normally not that much. Well, it's normally not a freaking hurricane.
Right. It's normally not these circumstances.
Oh, by the way, how much did you pay for that single bottle of water at the gas station? I paid $1.50. Well, how much would 12 of those be? That's okay.
I can't math. We talked about that earlier, but you're right.
It would be more than what you're pissed off about the store selling it during a freaking hurricane when there's no other store open. And the logical conclusion of what you're saying is that you'd rather everyone dehydrate to death, who didn't, do what the ant did. You'd rather everyone die like the grasshopper.
Either that or you'd rather them actually start looting.
Yeah, or you'd rather them start looting and stealing from everyone.
Right.
It's like, then you'd be
getting it for free minus the possible criminal charges.
Yeah, criminal charges or getting shot by someone or someone counter looting you and taking it from you and beating you up or whatever. Everyone accuses me of wanting Mad Max, and yet that seems to be what you want. And the reason that they're coming to these conclusions is because they've never actually come to conclusions. They just emote. They live based on the Disney, do what feels right in this moment guy. And if anyone tells you otherwise, then follow your heart. And so I can do a whole thing on that. But yes, price gouging is just another form of pricing. I don't even like price gouging. Price signaling is what stops scarcity and what signals to suppliers to bring more product to them, to bring more supply to the demand. Now, obviously, in a hurricane, that's going to be delayed because there's a freaking hurricane, which is why you should be there. And maybe if you want to be there, get some water and fill up your tub. But in all things being equal, price signaling, price going way up is in a free market is what allows suppliers to realize that, hey, we need to bring more supply to this because there's a bunch of money to be made, and that drives down the price and raises the supply. And then when the price goes too low, then people say, hey, you know what? I don't think I want to sell this anymore. And then that allows price stability and all the great things that come from price signaling. So price gouging is just an extreme example of price signaling. It is a great thing, and you should love it as much as I do. Sweatshops are the first rungs of the ladder out of starvation and into industrialization. And it's what your ancestors did so that you can sit here like a jackass on your phone
and bitch about the sweatshops that your ancestors used to work in.
Yeah, and that the device that you're using was almost entirely made from.
Right.
So don't do that.
Right. Yes, the device that I currently hold in my hand right here.
The device that's sitting in my lap and that I'm talking into, and
right.
I would be
was created in a sweatshop, almost 100% guaranteed.
Yeah,
by people making
almost
20
100% guaranteed.
Making 20 cents an hour or 20 cents a day.
And loving it.
And
I shouldn't say loving it. I mean, they're in brutal conditions.
Right.
But look at Foxconn. So Foxconn's conditions. Foxconn is who makes the stuff for Apple, mostly like the iPhones and the iPads. Foxconn's conditions have progressively gotten better over time because the workers are making money and actually have some, with capital comes political capital. They
Right.
now can say, hey, look, we don't like this. And they have more voice in their local society government because they actually they're not just people that are about to starve to death. They actually have some clout as a group. And that allows for conditions to change, and they now can afford to say, hey, look, maybe I can find a job somewhere else. Like, I mean, good things come from this, or they can all die because you don't like that they're, that they don't have, air conditioning and cigarette breaks or whatever.
And if you're upset about them not having air conditioning in this room right here, I don't have air conditioning. Wow, my camera hit such a delay just then. But I don't have air conditioning here. So like right now I'm sweating so bad.
For free.
Not even getting paid.
So take that, America.
Right. Yeah. So, man,
Good stuff.
We only went slightly over. That was not bad for us.
Slightly over what?
Our normal estimated time of 1 hour.
That's not bad.
No, we're
getting there. We're baby steps down to an hour.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're at an hour and 20-ish, I think.
I'm good with that. Good with that. If I can stay under 2 hours, then I feel like I really, especially after my last interview with Timon Pearson that went almost 4 hours.
Right.
Great interview, by the way. Salt of the earth guy. But definitely gonna try to dial it back.
Right. I did the one with the Bowen brothers, and that one was 2.5 hours, I think.
Nice.
And luckily on that one, I had the foresight to, once we got to like an hour 10, I said, okay, we're going to have to take a break, guys, because I got to split this into two. So we can continue the conversation, but I got to close this one and we're going to reopen.
See, I didn't even. My interview with Timon went so swimmingly. I knew we were well past whatever, but he actually was like, "I got to go pick up my wife," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't have to pick up your wife till 6." And she's like, "Yeah, it's 6:15." I'm like, "Holy crap!" Like we started talking at 2 something. So good. So an hour and a half ish.
Yeah,
I feel good about that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. It's the next rung.
It's the next rung in the step from talking too long
right.
to talking just enough.
To talking just to the right amount.
Right amount.
Oh man, I let that go way too long. Hang on 1 second. I gotta reset something up. Cause
oh no,
my computer fell asleep. Because I got so into talking about sweatshops and price gouging. Man, we talked about rape, price gouging, and sweatshops today.
But if someone's just tuning in, pro price gouging,
pro sweatshops,
anti-rape. So don't there is no rape is not a rung in the ladder.
No, it's not.
Not any good ladder. Anyway.
Right. I was gonna say it's probably a rung in a ladder.
Ladders that it is a rung in,
right? But
they're all bad ones.
Not any ladder that anybody wants to be a part of.
We do not want to be a part of those ladders, and we are definitely against those.
We definitely do not support rape here.
Yeah, we are not going to red pill you on rape today.
No, we do not condone rape at the Muddied Waters of Freedom.
We're definitely against that.
Right.
Price gouging good though.
Price gouging great. Yeah. Sweatshops, awesome. Brett Kavanaugh gonna be the Supreme Court justice anyway.
I can't imagine he wouldn't be.
Right.
I can't imagine. I think that they will play the game for a couple of weeks and whatever, and then he'll end like they did with Clarence Thomas, and then he'll end up.
They're gonna. I think they're gonna try to push it till the election, but I don't think it'll make it that far.
Right. Yeah. It's not gonna happen, and he will go on to, do some. Stuff. He's gonna throw us all in the room, and anyway.
Right.
But it'll be legal, so that's good.
He is gonna molest our Fourth Amendment rights.
Gonna hold his hand over our habeas corpus,
right,
and
over our personal privacies,
over our personal privacy rights, right. And good stuff.
And it's always good to know during the show when you know it's not going to be monetized.
Right. Just right off the bat.
Just right off the bat.
This show will
We're
never
not
be
making any
monetized,
money on this
exactly.
one. All right. Well,
Go ahead.
do you have anything else today? Do you have any?
No, I'm against rape.
Right.
I'm against hurricanes.
Well,
I'm in favor of targeted demo marketing.
So, speaking of targeted demo marketing, since we're on YouTube, and
Yes.
this is a platform we haven't really tried live,
Right.
I think that we need to refresh the audience on the hashtag campaign.
Mattandace. Yeah.
Mattandace, yes, the hashtag Mattandace, which I believe anybody on Facebook who pays attention to us probably knows what that is already. But the people,
I hope so. I hope to God they know what that is.
Me too, so do I really want to see that hashtag take off. But for the people on YouTube, I want one date, just one date. Maybe that date lasts the rest of our lives, but just one date with Candace Owens.
Just the one.
Just one day, just one dinner. So we reached out to Candace and we asked her which one was her favorite hashtag, and she did not respond, which I thought, I understand. She's busy. She's busy. Kind of was hoping for a response, but whatever. So
You know what? Maybe she wanted us to surprise her.
That's true. She seems like she's the type that likes to be surprised. But yeah, so one day, Candace Owens, the hashtag is Mattandace. Hashtag Mattandace. Matt and Ace. Mattandace. So
Mattandace.
yes.
Because I kept spelling it Mattandance.
Yes.
Correct.
So if all of you people out there in YouTube world, and the people who listen to us regularly on SoundCloud or your whatever podcast app you choose.
Anywhere that you see us.
Right, anywhere that you see us. Just remember, hashtag Mattandace.
Mattandace. Make it viral.
Make it viral. Send it everywhere.
Make it do its thing.
I would like to see that trending on Twitter.
Instagram, all of that.
Instagram, Twitter, all of it.
The end goal is for Candace to slide up in your... Slide up into some... Well, really, it's just slide somewhere.
Right. Anyway. So yeah, but if you're wondering about our Twitter, so you can...
I know I am.
So you can obviously tag us when you hashtag Mattandace. It's at muddied_waters. If you're doing hashtag Mattandace and Photoshops, please send in your Photoshops of what me and Candace would look like on a date. And please, no pictures of Charlie Kirk.
No. Are you okay with them photoshopping your face onto Charlie Kirk's body while he's next to Candace, or you want him removed entirely from
No, I'm actually okay with that, because then she'll be pleasantly surprised when she meets me in person.
Oh, by how much better.
Right.
She'll say, "Oh, you're not frumpy at all."
Right.
Why do I? When did I have started hating Charlie Kirk recently, and I don't know why that is.
I have too, and there's absolutely no reason.
I have no reason to hate
zero
the man
reason
at
to
all.
hate Charlie Kirk.
I have continued to bash this poor soul. So just get out of our way, Charlie.
Right, Charlie.
Because it's only gonna get worse.
So yeah, send in your Photoshops to at Muddied Waters of Freedom on Instagram, or you can send them straight to our Facebook. You can post them. I think you can post them onto our Facebook.
Yeah, you can post on Facebook, because I did it accidentally.
Yes,
when
you did.
When I was against the page.
Yeah, put them on our Facebook, which you can find at facebook.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. Or I think we have a I really should know a lot more about our business. I think we have a contact page on our website.
We do. It's Muddied. Well, let me check it right now.
MuddiedWatersOfFreedom.com.
Waters of Freedom
.com/contact about.
I think so. Yep. MuddiedWatersOfFreedom.com/contact.
Yes. So send us all of your opinions on hashtag Mattandace and anything that we said today.
Please.
And yeah, I guess remember.
I'm supposed to do the thing.
Yeah.
See, I'm still. I cannot fill Muhammad's shoes. Try as I can.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
So,
it's only
thank you
episode
guys
2.
What's that?
It's only episode 2, so it's fine.
It is. That's true. Well, it's 73, but 2
Right.
with yours truly.
Right.
And so thank you for joining us on Muddied Waters of Freedom. And where we're going,
We don't need.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah. You say half, I say half.
Okay, sorry. And where we're going,
We don't need roads.
.30, God, I hate that sound. Ain't got time to snooze, I put my feet on the ground and I head to the shower, then avoid the mirror. There's a man who lives inside there who just points out all my fears. Like, is this who you wanna be? I wanna be. There's gotta be a better me than the one in front of me. I got big ideas, I got big dreams. I got a big head, thick skin, and passion bursting at the seams. Been working 9 to 5 just to make ends meet. Then I'm rapping 6 to 2 just so that I can breathe. I do what I gotta do to get back up in this bullshit. I should try to sleep before I rinse and repeat.
I've got some big ideas. I've got some sweet dreams in my heart. I've got so much love. I don't know where to start. I don't know to start. I've got some big ideas. I've got some sweet dreams in my heart. I've got so much love. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start. Back home, flip on TV. Short nap for a long day's work. Be up early tomorrow. And I will get this shit done for sure. I've got